Are those Dany's dragon eggs in House of the Dragon? If so, what's the fourth one? And how do they make their way over to Dany 170 years later? And why does it matter anyway? Because there are some big implications to all this. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to In Deep Geek. We're covering House of the Dragon in full on this channel, as well as on my live stream channel, IDG Live. Welcome. In episode 3 of season 2 of House of the Dragon, Rhaenyra gives her stepdaughter Rhaena 4 dragon eggs to take to the Vale with her and the 3 youngest members of the family, Joffrey, Aegon and Viserys. Eagle-eyed viewers immediately noticed that 3 of them, the green, the gold and the reddish-black, were very similar in colour, a bit brighter perhaps, though age can dull many things, to the 3 that Dany had many years later that hatched into Drogon, Rhaegal and Viserion. This was confirmed by the director of the episode, Geeta Vasant Patel, who revealed in an interview with Mashable that those are Daenerys' eggs. All of us who work on this show are big Game of Thrones fans, so it was very exciting to shoot that scene. Indeed exciting, but also a bit of a surprise to many book readers, as there has been, since Fire and Blood was published in 2018, a well-established consensus that Dany's dragon eggs made their way over to Essos a few decades earlier, in the year 54 AC, in the hands of Alyssa Farman. Alyssa Farman is one of the more intriguing and fun characters in Fire and Blood. Heavily hinted to be the lover of Rhaena Targaryen, that's the granddaughter of Aegon the Conqueror, not the Rhaena we know from House of the Dragon. She also held a burning desire to explore the world and discover what was west of Westeros. After a tumultuous and rather complex relationship, she left Rhaena and Dragonstone to do just that. In order to pay for the ship she would need, she stole 3 dragon eggs and sold them to the Sea Lord of Braavos. This caused quite the diplomatic incident, as King Jaehaerys was very keen for the Targaryens to keep their monopoly over dragons. But those eggs did not hatch, and Alyssa Farman did get to sail west, and the whole thing eventually blew over. The language hints in the text and the coincidence of 3 dragon eggs being in Essos convinced many, myself included, that those 3 were the most likely candidates to be Dany's. It was never 100% confirmed by George R.R. Martin, but as good a hint as we were likely to get. But then came the reveal in House of the Dragon, at which point we should be clear that in George R.R. Martin's mind there are 2 separate canons in play here, book canon and show canon. He tries to keep the 2 as close as possible, but obviously doesn't have complete control over what happens in the show. So sometimes, even in shows that are trying to stay close to the source material, like House of the Dragon, there will be differences. If you want to see him explain his views on this, I can only recommend the interview he did with History of Westeros a couple of years ago. He's really quite clear. He's trying to keep show and book canon as close as possible, but ultimately they are 2 separate things. So this being true in show canon doesn't necessarily mean it's true in the books. In fact, it almost certainly can't be true in the books, unless there are some unexpected twists and turns to come. Because what happens in the Dance of the Dragons in the books is that Rhaena takes 3 eggs with her to the Vale, not 4. She's accompanied by Joffrey, but not Aegon and Viserys. Viserys' egg stays with him on Dragonstone until he sets sail on the cog the Gay Abandon set for Pentos, and, well, that's another story. We're told that in the Vale, Rhaena prayed over those eggs daily, and eventually one of them hatched into the dragon Morning, which bonded with Rhaena and grew well and strongly over the next few years until, well, again, that's another story, and one that George R.R. Martin has yet to tell us. So, in the books, one of the 3 eggs that went to the Vale hatched into Morning, leaving only 2, so they can't be Dany's 3. We aren't told what happened to the other 2, but there's no reason to believe that they made their way to Essos. More evidence that Alyssa Farman's eggs are the ones that we should focus on. In the show, we haven't covered that part of Westerosi history with Alyssa Farman, and haven't heard any plans to, so I understand the desire to use those eggs that went to the Vale to make a link forward to the main Game of Thrones story, and there's undoubtedly a strong emotional level to Rhaenyra saying that Rhaena and those eggs bear the hopes of House Targaryen for their future. That hope may have to last a long time, but it undoubtedly survived through to Daenerys. Incidentally, we're told in the show that the 4th egg in that group is Viserys's, and Rhaena is given clear instruction to take all of the eggs over to even greater safety in Pentos when she can. Might that fourth egg become morning in the show? If so, why would it bond with Rhaena rather than Viserys? Or will all 4 eggs go on ships over to Essos only to be intercepted by the Triarchy and split up? Or perhaps they will conflate Rhaena's story with Nettle's? At the time of writing this video, there are a lot of unknowns, but presumably those 3 will somehow make it over to Pentos or elsewhere in Essos, then pass through who knows how many hands before Illyrio gives them to Dany, by which time they will be thought of as ancient artifacts rather than eggs that might hatch. 170 years is a long time for an egg not to hatch. But why does all this matter? Surely dragon eggs are just dragon eggs. The important point is that Dany managed to hatch some dragons all that time later, not to nerdily obsess over exactly which eggs they were. Well, yes and no. Yes, the important point obviously is that Dany hatched some dragons. Any dragons, rather than no dragons. The story would be very different if she didn't have any dragons. And yes, this is nerdy levels of detail, but if you've come with me this far, I'll assume that you want this level of nerdy detail, so here goes. The strong implication in the book is that Alyssa Farman took 3 of Dreamfire's eggs. Dreamfire was her lover Rhaena's dragon, who she had ridden with Rhaena many times, so was at Dragonstone at the time, and we're clearly told that Dreamfire laid at least 3 batches of eggs, 1 of 3 eggs. So what does it matter if Dreamfire is the mother of Dany's dragons? Well, firstly, Rhaena is the original queen who never was. She was the eldest child of Aegon the Conqueror, and yet was never really considered for ruling. What would that say for Dany? And Dreamfire is also Helena's dragon. Helena, as revealed on the show, is perhaps the most dragon-dreamy of all the dragon dreamers. In Season 1, almost every word she said was prophetic in some way. Dany has already had some dragon dreams in the books, so might she have some more? But what if Drogon, Rhaegal and Viserion are Syrax's children? Because we're told that those eggs on the show are Syrax's eggs. What might that symbolise? Well, above all else, the link to Rhaenyra. I suspect this is the main motivation here, connecting the 2 sympathetic Targaryen queens forced to fight for their throne. Having Syrax be the mother of Dany's dragons means that Rhaenyra's dragon and Dany herself are both, in different ways, the mothers of Dany's dragons. Shared parentage, if you like. Some have wondered whether this might affect the link between Drogon and Balerion the Black Dread, because there is a lot of symbolic connection between them. Colour, ferocity, and place at the forefront of a prospective 3-dragon-led invasion of Westeros. But the truth is that George R. R. Martin is often actually quite vague about which dragon eggs give birth to which dragons. We don't know which, if any, dragons are the offspring of Balerion. But I guess that's where we must leave it, with a hint of uncertainty, but a very clear dividing line. In the show, yes, 3 of those eggs definitely are Dany's eggs. In the books, they probably aren't. 2 different things happening in the 2 different canons, book and show. And that's okay. As much as I prefer the book version, and I do, I think Alyssa Farman's story is one of the standout episodes of Fire and Blood. George R. R. Martin has been clear that, although the TV show may try to stick to the books, sometimes there will be differences, and this is one of them. And as I said, that's okay. It's okay to enjoy 2 slightly different versions of the same story. If you'd like to see more videos diving deep into the lore of A Song of Ice and Fire, there's a playlist appearing now on the left of your screen. Or to support this channel, thank you. There's a link to my Patreon page on the right of your screen. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.